That is because my microphone was not on. Boys and girls, the New York Jets. You know what? Here, let's do this. Let's run the intro again. We're going to try that one more time. Have signed wide receiver Mike Williams to a 1-year up to $15 million contract. I am all sorts of excited. The Jets have wide receiver 2, left tackle 1, right tackle 1. The offensive line has all their starters in place, which means the 10 pick is purely best player available. We are open for business. We could wheel and deal it. I am very, very excited for this. I am still team trade down, but this opens the door now, I think, a little bit more for people for the Brock Bowers experience with tight end filling out the rest of our offensive weapon room, or you continue to build the offensive line because now you have your full complement of weapons because you are happy with Conklin and Rucker. I'm super pumped on this. So excited. Brian Bogan says, Ryan officially speechless. Joe Douglas comes out and drops his sack on the table and says, hey, AFC, it's coming through New York, baby. Let's go. Mike D's nuts says, Ryan, let's fucking go. So hyped. Mike, thank you so much for the super chat. I want to acknowledge Travis for joining the newest member of the economy tier. Boys and girls, hit that like button if you're pumped like me for the New York Jets to get wide receiver 2. Now, I don't know, and I haven't seen the full contract details because I saw it said up to $15 million. Now, $15 million is more than I wanted to pay Mike Williams. I'll be honest. I was looking, honestly, it's only $2 million more. I was looking to pay him like $13 million, somewhere in there, but if it's all incentive-based and based on how many games he's actually playing, just like the Tyron Smith signing, beautiful. Joe Douglas, I could kiss your big, bald, beautiful head. I am all sorts of pumped on this. Boys and girls, hit that like button on the way in. I want to get your thoughts and questions about what you think the Jets do at the 10 pick. You know what? Let's do a poll question here. Jets pick at 10. We'll say Bowers, O-line, trade down, and then we'll say go other. Why not? Throw a little curveball in there. Oh! I was already hyped up because I saw Daniel Jeremiah mocked us trading up for Marvin Harrison Jr. and then like not 2 hours after I've put out that video talking about that particular mock draft, the Jets go and get Mike Williams. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, we're feeling good. Feeling good. Look, he tore his ACL week 3 of the NFL season, so we're not out of the woods yet. And it doesn't mean wide receivers off the table at number 10 entirely. Although I probably should have put that on there. I should probably should have thrown offensive wide receiver in there. Let me redo that poll. Because just like the conversation with offensive line at 10 after we signed Tyron Smith, it's going to be another conversation. Do you go wide receiver? So we'll go wide receiver, We'll say O tackle. We'll do tight end because we all know who it is. And we will say trade down. All right, I'm curious to see what you guys have to say on this one. Kelvin, what's up, dude? Said, glad the boogeyman Keith didn't scare offensive line players. Yeah, look, I think at least having developed guys that you don't have to worry on Keith Carter developing, it's good to have vets in here. And Morgan Moses at $5.5 million doesn't necessarily mean we aren't drafting tackle at number 10. $5.5 million could imply backup offensive tackle money. And then as far as, wide receiver, $15 million, $11 million for Lazard, and then Garrett is obviously starting. I don't know what they try to do. Maybe they try to cut Lazard post June 1st if they're already looking to potentially move him. Maybe that's a consideration, and 10 could still be a wide receiver. Now, this is obviously a one-year contract, so you could still go wide receiver. I do like more wide receivers in the second round than I do in the first round, I'll be honest. As far as receivers, though, I do like Bowers, and Bowers is an interesting option if you wanted to go that route. I think, for me, I'm team trade down. If you can move down to like somewhere in the top 15, pick up a second or third round pick and utilize those picks to come up into the second. I would like to get a second round pick in some capacity, whether it's us trading back to get a second or us trading up from the third to get back into the second. I think that would be absolutely massive for us. Now, when I look at the Jets and what I think they're more likely to do, I don't know. They wanted the home run talent in Jahmyr Gibbs last year. They wanted Michael Mayer, the tight end. So if that is all true and the tight end room hasn't changed other than the addition of Zach Kuntz, which I don't think would prevent you from signing anyone else, and the removal of 𝐂𝐮𝐳 Uzomah, I get the feeling Bowers is going to be the pick. It's like a crazy offense now. Now I'm feeling like super confident because now you got weapons at every level of the offense. Or is it O-line? Is it O-line? Michael comes in and says, JD is killing this free agency. Let's play the game at the draft. I can't wait to see what we wind up doing. Boys and girls, if you haven't gotten your tickets for the Talkin' Jets draft party, night one of the NFL draft, it's about to get really fucking nuts. I'm really excited. TalkinJets.com, TALKIN, Jets.com. Get your draft tickets while they're still available. Blitzcrew comes in and says, the stream tonight should just start early. You and Matt are already on. I didn't know Matt was already on. I figure everyone's probably going live at this point. I can't start it early, though, because we got bedtime and dinner and things like that. So I'm going to go till 6 o'clock or a half hour, whichever one's first. So I'll go till 5:50, it looks like, 5:52. And then we'll hop on for Talkin' Jets tonight over on the Talkin' Jets channel. Myself, O'Leary, and Greenbean. So if you guys want to get all our takes all at once and all the conversation that's about to happen, I'm excited. WWJ says, imagine Bowers at 10 and we get a second round Coleman. Looking for Keon Coleman. So maybe you trade up and just load up everything with weapons. I still want an interior offensive lineman at some point. Brian comes in with a super chat, says, since we had a productive offseason, would you trade out of the first for a second this year and an additional first next year? Interesting. I don't know. An additional first next year. I guess it may depend on the team and where the second round pick is. Like, I don't want to fall crazy far. Like, if I'm going back of the 20s right now, I want a first round pick for next year. But if I'm going all the way back to the second round, man, that's a lot. Depends. I'll say depends. I like it. I don't think JD would do that because there's no guarantee they're here next year. So I just don't know if that's a realistic possibility. I think they want to go all in for this season. Jack Lee says, remember what happened the last 2 years, offensive line problems. So he's saying go offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. Peter says these are only 1 year deals for both. Draft the future and learn from them. I completely agree. I think our first two picks need to be some sort of flexible offensive guard tackle and a wide receiver or a receiver in general. If you want it to be Bowers and then work on, a wide receiver next season, that's fine too. I'm open to that. I don't particularly love the idea of going Bowers. It does scare the bejesus out of me. I kind of hope he's gone before our pick so we have another, non-quarterback fall into our lap. But, man, yeah, all these 1 year contracts, it's not going to preclude you from doing anything. Because even Conklin's on a 1 year deal. Conklin's on a 1 year deal. Tyron's on a 1 year deal. Moses is on a 1 year deal. Mike Williams is on a 1 year deal. Everyone else is on 2 year deals. Robbie D says Odunze, I think. I would love to get Odunze. I'd be pumped on that. Stifler's mom says, I really think O-line or trade down is safe. Then you have to so for me, drafting O-line at 10, and now even wide receiver to some degree, is it's a little bittersweet because you're drafting a player you're maybe hoping could take the place of an already supplanted starter. I'd love to be able to build the team a little bit more in areas of weakness, but the offensive line is an area of weakness. So surrounding it right there is makes perfect sense. I get why people still want to go offensive line in the first. Damon says Lazard is grass, man. I think he's gone. I could see them cutting him. If he wound up giving up on the team last year, I could see the Jets moving off of him at this point. Hollywood J says trade with the Chargers, move up to 5, trade Lazard in the package, select Marvin Harrison Jr. They're already in kind of cap trouble. I don't know if they really want to take a Lazard. Daniel Jeremiah had us only giving up a 2025 second round pick to get up to number 5. And I would do that in a heartbeat. It doesn't even matter who it's for. If you want whoever it is, top wide receiver, top offensive line, it's going to be the top non-quarterback because we're going to get the top 4 positions, probably quarterback. Mike D's Nuts says Jets free agency has been scary good, honestly. All kinds of pumped up now. Win the division, now win some games. You got to win the division. I still believe the division is the easiest. I shouldn't say the easiest. The division is the best way for the Jets to get into the playoffs. Obviously, you get the home playoff game, but I think the AFC is going to be really tough with the Chiefs, with a resurging Raiders team, with a Chargers team that gets Herbert back with Harbaugh, and then you have the Bengals getting you get the Bengals getting Burrow back, you get the Browns getting Watson back. So it's going to be a really tough conference. I think the division is the way the Jets are going to have to go. Mr. Upstate says Mike Williams has been injury prone, which is why I'm hoping this contract is definitely the up to $15 million. I hope it's similar to Tyron Smith, where it's based on playing time. Hey, as long as you're healthy, you're getting paid like the wide receiver you want to get paid like. That's what I feel like most contracts should be. Hey, any player, if it could be Joe Schmo getting drafted or whatever, you play like a top number 1 wide receiver, you're gonna get paid like number 1 wide receiver. I feel like that would be really cool to see. Scar City says JD is not drafting Bowers at 10. It's not happening, nor should it. So what's the difference if JD had taken Meyer at 15 last year? If that's honestly where if that's true, if he wanted to go with Meyer and he was number 2 on our board, and let's say Will McDonald was not there, would they have gone Meyer at 15? And what's the difference between Meyer and Bowers and going it at 15 versus going it at 10? I'm not so sure. If there's any truth to it, I think you could absolutely go at number 10. Kevin says, damn, I changed my vote to trade back. LOL, didn't see that one. Yeah, trade back is the one that it looks like most people want. 39% are rooting for that. And then everyone else is kind of across the board. It's almost what do you want our first round pick to be? Because even if you could trade down, does that change your opinion on what position you would take? I don't know if it necessarily does. I'm not so sure. Franzman says, trade back and add a second, draft offensive line and wide receiver with the first 2 picks. Preach, brother. Jay Spector says, give me BB late first, beast road grader next Titman, get a second round pick at wide receiver. I want someone that's a little more tackle savvy. After talking with Dom C last night, he's a little bit more thinking BB is going to be interior offensive lineman more so than being able to kick out to tackle in a pinch. Fuatanu I'm going to screw that up. Troy Fuatanu from Washington. You probably have to stay in front of the Seahawks, but I would look at taking him. Matt Riley comes in with Super Chat. Or no, sorry, not Super Chat. I'm losing my damn mind here. Says, I have an interesting proposal now. If the Jets don't like any of the options at number 10, is there any world where we trade down and not take an offensive lineman or a wide receiver, but a quarterback and take on in the second with a trade? Take a quarterback and take on a second. So I like the idea of trading down, but the idea of trading down implies that someone wants to come up for someone else. So who is that player that someone is coming up to number 10 for? If I think the top 4 quarterbacks are likely to go 1, 2, 3, 4, with the Vikings having that 4th quarterback, then it's the Raiders and the Broncos, division rivals, trying to come up. The Broncos don't have a second round pick this year. Raiders do. So I guess maybe the Raiders could hop up to 10. Maybe that's how the Jets get Davante Adams. Imagine Davante Adams and Mike Williams on this damn team. Oh my God. That's not going to happen. But imagine those are the trade downs that I think could come up for a quarterback. Could you imagine a situation where the Jets just set themselves up to draft a quarterback at 10? Who is it? Who would it be? I can't see them doing it. I can't see that happening. I want trade down offensive lineman or trade down weapon. I don't care. There's so many routes they could go. I'm not going to be upset whichever one they go. Crossfire! Says, let's fucking go. I can't wait. What's your way too early 2024 record? We got 7 wins last year. 7 wins. With Zach Wilson throwing the rock. Aaron Rodgers comes back. This offensive line is definitely better. This wide receiver room is definitely better. Defense is going to look a little different. Maybe we get a Jadeveon Clowney. It's going to look pretty decent then. I think this pass rush is going to look filthy, even without Bryce Huff here, because we're going to have more leads next season. I think Miami got worse. I think Buffalo got worse. New England, I think, is going to take a step forward, but I don't know if it's enough to like impede us from imposing our will with a full strength team. I would say the Jets are on pace for like 12 wins. If you stay healthy and the majority of your team is rocking and rolling, I think 12 wins is absolutely in the conversation. Now, I'd have to look and see, like, I'm curious to see the record and see, or not the record, but I'm curious to see the schedule and how things break down, where bye weeks are. I think are we playing the South? Because we're playing Jacksonville, we're playing Tennessee, are we doing the West? It's not the West, but do we have Arizona this year? I feel like we got Arizona this year. I got to look. I don't know. 12 and 5. That's my record. Brian, I can hear Rodgers smirking from here. You could hear it. Jay Turner! Welcome to the economy tier, brother. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Boys and girls, if you're part of the channel, part of the economy or membership tier, drop those JETS in the chat. Let Jay see some of those cool emojis out there. Ricky drops in and says, just because his board was one way last year doesn't mean it's going to be the same this year, especially after these additions. I completely agree, Ricky. I completely agree. And it's not going to be necessarily the same, but it is interesting that they considered tight end at 15 with the same tight end room. Now we are minus Uzomah. So I would argue maybe it's addition by subtraction with Uzomah, but either way, you're down one tight end. And do you think Bowers is better than Myers? And then how do you think Joe Douglas values the rest of the class compared to where things were last year? Like maybe this is just an overall better class and he doesn't have tight end remotely close to the top. But based on where he had Meyer last year, I would tend to think they're looking at a weapon for Rodgers, and it's going to wind up being Bowers at 10. Give yourself a little bit of someone that can impact immediately. It's going to be fascinating to see how they play it all out. Liam Lassiter says, what grade would you give JD? Let's effing go. Also, keep an eye out for Bo Nix if the Jets pick up a second. That would be interesting. Taking a quarterback in the second, I feel like I could swallow that. If you can trade down, pick up a second, there's enough receivers in the third that now that we have Mike Williams, I'm not looking for someone to play immediately at wide receiver. Or I don't have to. Same thing with offensive linemen. So if you want to draft a position of now at 10 or in a trade down, I can live with that. But that changes the dynamic. I'm going to have to make a new flow chart now. Damn it. Damn flow charts. We'll get something cooking. Alex T, with how much movement this mocked for the draft, I almost feel like we sit at 10, it would be a detriment, though I know we could get a decent player, whether it be trade up or trade down, we got to move. So yeah, if you trade up, who are you going up to get at that point? Like, are you moving mountains to get a quarterback to sit behind Rodgers, and then you're just saying, hey, our team's loaded, let's figure it all out later? I don't think so. I don't think quarterback's the pick at 10. I don't know if you're trading. I mean, I guess you could trade up for alt. It depends how far up you're going to have to go. And, like, if you can get to 5, what does that cost you to know you've got your guy of the future? Like, if there's an offensive lineman you love, trading up feels like it's a little tougher for me to want to do. I'd rather, like, slide down, get an extra second, attack a few different positions. Go offensive line, go wide receiver. And if you want to sprinkle in quarterback, I'm okay with that. Honestly, my favorite quarterback that would be available for the Jets, I think, is Michael Penix. But I don't really want the Jets to take Penix in the first round. I think a team like the Giants at the back end of the first would probably take him. I know the injury history, the 2 ACLs, the throwing shoulder, all that. But he's like, I really like Penix of like the top end quarterbacks. If we had to look beginning part of the draft, I'm still team like 4th round and beyond for quarterbacks. So I'm looking at like Michael Pratt if he's there. I'm looking at Jordan Travis, things of that nature. But moving down gives you some flexibility to do a whole bunch of crazy stuff. It's gonna be interesting. Zachary says Chargers don't have a wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. They're gonna run the ball a lot. I think they are going to go receiver. I think what's going to happen is the Cardinals are going to have to trade out. Not have to trade out, but I think they're going to be enticed to trade out for most likely the Vikings pick. JJ is going to go at 4. Chargers aren't going to trade with either the Broncos or the Raiders. So you don't think a quarterback's going to go there. So they're just going to sit and take the pick unless someone else wants to come up. And if there's a team that doesn't want a quarterback that wants to hop up, is it Marvin Harrison Jr., or are they happy sitting at 5 and getting Marvin Harrison Jr., the best non-quarterback, off the board? I would sit and take Harrison Jr. if I were them. And then Neighbors goes 6 to the Giants. Alt probably goes 7 to the Titans. Turner to the Falcons at 8. And then the Bears are an interesting spot. They can go a few different directions, and the Jets may pivot slightly based on how that goes. Like if they have a tackle, if they decide to take a tackle, the Jets may not go tackle. If the Bears go wide receiver, maybe they just decide not to go wide receiver. Like maybe Odunze is like their 3rd receiver or something like that. Maybe the Bears go Bowers, add some more weapons for Caleb Williams. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what winds up happening. It's cool. The 2 Chargers receivers end up going to the teams with the 9th and the 10th pick back to back, trying to figure out, okay, which one's more worthy of being replaced by a rookie? I think the Jets getting a rookie wide receiver makes more sense than maybe the Bears right now. I don't know. Maybe that's a wrong way to think of it. Le Greatness says, trade a couple picks down and see if Bowers is still falling. I see Bowers still, falling. So I don't know where Bowers ends up going. Like if he doesn't go to the Jets at 10, how far back can we go and feel comfortable getting him? Is he going to go 12 to the Broncos? If there's a quarterback they want to come up and get, and we can trade down with the Broncos, then maybe you want to take Bowers there. But they don't have a 2nd round pick. So and at this point, you're not getting Sutton because that's too expensive of a contract when you have Davis and you have Williams right now. So I guess you're just looking for picks. So it's probably the Raiders probably become our best friend in terms of trading. Make a swap of like someone for them to come up and get their guy. Devontae Adams. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. I don't know. I'm fascinated to see where it goes. If you could trade down and get Bowers, I think that's the best of both worlds. A-Rod's left Achilles says it's Bowers now. It's clearly they clearly filled all their needs in free agency, so they take a luxury pick or trade down. I hope it's a trade down. I want to see that extra 2nd round pick. Even Covell says, I like the idea of drafting offensive line at 10 or with a trade down. We have 2 older tackles and an interior with an injury history. The idea of Fashanu learning under Tyron Smith sounds really enticing. Tyron Smith can definitely teach, or even just through osmosis, we'll be able to help these guys out. Who do we want? I tend to lean someone that could give us that guard tackle flexibility. Fashanu, I don't want to pass over him if he's like odds on like the best tackle available. But I'd almost rather take the best tackle at either left or right tackle. It doesn't matter. And I feel like it's going to end up being one of the right guards. So it's either going to be Fuaga or Latham or I guess that's probably it. One of those 2 guys in addition to Fashanu that's going to be available there for the Jets. And having that positional flexibility does kind of mean a bit to me. But do the Jets look at it and say, hey, look, we got Warren, we got Mitchell. We're happy with those guys. We're going to try and develop them behind, because Warren would have gone a lot higher if he didn't have the injury. Local kid, going to be interesting. Kevin says, if we can get McGovern and Bakhtiari, it would still be hard not to draft a lineman because of the 1-year deals, and it's such a deep class for offensive linemen and wide receivers. I do think McGovern comes back. Bakhtiari, I don't know if he comes or if he's looking primarily for a starting job. If he just wants to play with Rodgers and say like, okay, we're just going to make like a super team right now and just see how many like healthy people we can roll into the playoffs with a healthy Aaron Rodgers and like everyone else around him. And is that enough? I'm down. I'm down to bring in Bakhtiari. I'm down to bring in McGovern. If you bring in Bakhtiari though, I can't imagine you go offensive lineman in the 1st round. That's just so many linemen then. Phil says, odds we trade up to get Marvin Harrison, push all the chips in the middle. Could you imagine trading up for Marvin Harrison Jr. at this point? They're like, yeah, we're going to cut Lazard, and then we're just going to go straight with Marvin Harrison. Be tight. Crossfire says, we could even get a 1 next year depending on how far back we fall. I like the idea of falling back far for an extra first-round pick. How far back are you willing to go, and what player would you be all right with getting? Do you like a Graham Barton? Do you like a Jackson Powers Johnson? Do you like a Marius Mims? Like who knows? There's a lot of different options if you like multiple picks next year. I just don't know if Joe Douglas does it because of the potential need to win this year. Like, I think you might be seeing them go best player available. My Native says Jets need to find a way to move up and grab Marvin Harrison Jr. now. Could you imagine they just like push all the chips in the center and they say, we're just going best weapons. Look at this offense we're putting around Rodgers. And worst case scenario, if Rodgers stinks, we're going to have all these weapons for the next quarterback. I mean, that's the way to look at it. I just hope Rodgers isn't going to stink. He's just got to be healthy. I can't see Rodgers playing below top 15 level quarterback play. Not with the processor he's got between the ears. I feel like he's going to be able to do well regardless. Jario says, now we need to sign Jadeveon Clowney. I would love to get Clowney. Really love to get Clowney. I'm curious. The Jets had, I think, $9 million in cap space, according to Rosenblatt earlier today. I think that was who tweeted it out. And if they have $9 million in cap space, that didn't account for bringing back Solomon Thomas. So the Jets are going to have to restructure some contracts. I'd imagine DJ Reed and JFM are 2 contracts that will get restructured into 2-year deals. So that way we have them with this perceived 2-year window of Rodgers. I think that's how they're going to align everything. Zerline's got a 2-year contract. Simpson's got a 2-year contract. Morstead's got a 2-year contract. Obviously we signed Tyron and traded for Moses and signed Mike Williams, and they're all 1-year contracts. But I think the guys that we have in-house, like a Reed, like a potentially Conklin, I think it depends on if the Jets go Bowers. Like, I think they may wait on Conklin until after the draft. If they don't go Bowers, they realign Conklin with the 2-year window. If they go Bowers, then they might just let it stay at 1 year and then go Conklin Bowers for year 2025. But I love the idea of bringing in Clowney. I think Clowney's a really good signing. He hasn't had as many penalties the last few years either. Jack says, what kind of sandwich should I send to Clowney? Dude, the breakfast sandwich, the Taylor ham, egg, and cheese sandwich being delivered to One Jets Drive is just, it's so good. it's so good. Jadeveon Clowney, he should have a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese too. Like, I'm sorry. I had one this morning. I love it. I absolutely love Taylor ham, egg, and cheese on bagel. Did on my everything bagel. It's perfect. Whatever Clowney wants. He wants to try jalapeno bagel. There's some, you get a little south, go a little into the pork roll territory. There's some jalapeno bagels that are pretty fire. Go that way. Christopher says, did you hear Renfro is coming in for a visit as well? I did not. Is that actually true? If that's true, that's awesome. Give us a slot wide receiver. That would be a hell of a grab if you got him. Union Grand says, go Jets. Goddamn, FYI, I'm watching on Fire TV and you are in your YouTube Shorts view. It sucks. So click over onto the non-YouTube Shorts view. You can click, there's 2 streams going. There's one with 600 people that is landscape, and there's one that is portrait for those of you that like watching portrait, versions of this. But if you're in the vertical one, just hop over into the other one. We're all hanging out over here. Power Nab says, you're highly underestimating Bowers. Why am I highly underestimating Bowers? I said the Jets could definitely go Bowers because we had Michael Mayer on our board at 15. I think we could absolutely go Bowers at 10. I'm scared of it. It doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy that most tight ends don't work out from the first round, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be drafting a tight end in the first round, because I would argue Laporta, Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, all those 4 that were in the final 4 of the playoffs this past year, all worthy of top 10 picks. It's just the evaluation process that's really frustrating with tight ends, because no one seems to be able to gauge it correctly. If you can hit correctly, 100% worth a top 10 pick. If Bowers is that, I'm all about it. I think the Texas tight end's really good too, and he's going to be available in the second round. So I don't know. You can go either way. I'm happy regardless. Austin Powers says, we signed Mike. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Crossfire. We still have Warren and Mitchell that will learn behind Moses and Smith. I agree. I do think that's the direction. I definitely want Warren to learn. I'm a little, I'm waiting on Mitchell. I want to see how he does through training camp. I think he could ultimately get released at the end of camp if he doesn't kind of step up his game. I heard the Jets were scouting a DB in the first round. Maybe they're looking to trade Reed or Michael Carter. I would imagine you'd retain Michael Carter because his contract's going to be so much cheaper. And then Reed is going to be really expensive, I think. So depending on if he wants to align with a 2-year contract or not, that may depend on what they want to do. The Jets could get the top corner on the board at 10 if they trade Reed for another asset. That would be super frustrating. I don't really want to see a defensive player in the first at all. Like, I haven't even been processing that at all. I might lose my marbles. If the Jets pull a defensive player, let alone a corner in the first round, especially if they haven't made a move on Reed yet, I'd probably throw a tantrum. Where are my entertainers? This is going to be all in impressive. Draft now feels like Bowers or cornerback. Move up for Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors. So does that open the door for cornerback? That's an interesting conversation to have because once you lose Reed, we've already lost Bryce Hall. Eccles is done at the end of the year. We don't have corners under contract. I would have a very hard time going defense in the first round. I'd be pretty upset. Shane says, I don't think Reed would take a 1-year extension. He will want a longer-term extension instead of just putting off free agency an extra year. Yeah, look, I can totally see that. If he doesn't want to do that, then the Jets should move him right now. They definitely should. If he does not want to go in on this 2-year plan that the Jets are thinking, he's earned a payday. So there's no, upsetness at all on my part, but at least the Jets can prepare like, okay, we are either going to draft to replace him or we are going to maybe move him for an asset, or maybe you just decide, hey, we're going to try and get a comp pick at the end of next year because it's worth it for us to have a player, play out the season. I do think he's got a void year on his deal, though, doesn't he? Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's only got the one. Let's see. Richard said, did you know Wisconsin doesn't have pork roll? I live in Wisconsin, but grew up in Long Branch and Red Bank. A lot of places don't have pork roll or Taylor ham. Pork roll's weird. So you must have, you grew up down the shore, so you're in Blewett territory. Pork roll sounds weird. I understand that's what it is. Taylor ham brand pork roll. But Taylor ham is actually, that's what I use. That's what I call it. Sean E-Rock says, the DBs suck in this draft. I don't think they suck. I just don't think there's a consensus number 1. I think there's like 5 that are all solid. And I don't know if I would be taking one at the top 10 when you can get like other players that are better at their position groups than the corners are. Like, I think teams that want corners in the 20s are going to get some really nice corners. I don't think I would necessarily want the Jets to go that route. Where are my entertainers? Says, pairing Sauce with Mitchell or Arnold makes you a defensive terror for 8 to 10 years, in my opinion. That's just a lot of money and assets to devote to corner. I don't know if I want to do that. I think I'd rather go corner when Sauce starts getting expensive, and then you have a cheap corner and an expensive corner. Having 2 guys that you're going to have to pay a ton of money to feels painful. Christian says, do you think they have any shockers like a trade up for a future quarterback? I mean, who knows? They worked out all the quarterbacks. They interviewed a bunch of quarterbacks. Could you imagine this was the whole plan and they're like, hey, we know Rodgers got 2 years. We got 5 years of rookie contract. We're going up to get Jaden Daniels. We're gonna make a trade. Hey, what team would I honestly do it? The Patriots aren't trading out with us. We'd have to trade up to number 4 and we'd have to give up a haul. Like, I don't see how the Jets could trade up for a quarterback. It'd be bonkers to do it. And I guess you can't rule it out, but man, that would be a hell of a play. I want stuff for this year or supporting this year. Like, offensive linemen would support this year. Tyrod Taylor is the backup for the next 2 years. I'd like to carry 2 quarterbacks and not have to worry about drafting. I don't know. It's fascinating to see what ends up happening, though. Andrew says, trade back, pick up 2025 and 2024 and 2025 second-round picks, then draft wide receiver Leggett in the first, best offensive lineman in the second, safety in the third, quarterback in the fourth. I can get on board with this. O-line in the second, positional flexibility. Leggett in the first. I saw Mel Kiper had Leggett in the first. I haven't seen him enter the first-round conversation until this particular mock draft, and now all of a sudden we're seeing Xavier Leggett go early. Man. I was hoping we can get him in the second round. There's going to be a lot of good receivers. So whether we trade down and go receiver or trade down and go offensive lineman, like Troy Fuatanu is really interesting. Graham Barton's really interesting. Jackson Powers Johnson is really interesting. Like in terms of center guard hybrid, and the guy's like an animal. An absolute freak of nature. Damn. Brooklyn Bullies comes in. What's up, dude? Thank you so much for the super chat. It says, trade down and hopefully get a quarterback that can learn behind Rodgers like Penix or Nix, so we change the mold. I envy how the Packers have always been able to replace the quarterback and have someone ready to take over. Yeah, could you imagine if the Jets trade down far enough that I guess you sort of feel comfortable, right? Like the next two quarterbacks off the board for me are Nix and Penix, and they could go 12, 13. They definitely could. So if you could trade down to 15, 16, I don't know what you pick up. Or if you go back even further and you can get them towards the tail end of the first round, then you make a selection. Maybe that's a little more enticing. I have a hard time seeing them take a quarterback in the first when it's not something that they're going to be able to use this year. Maybe they feel their job is so safe and having a quarterback of the future now is the way to go. But I think you'd have to have Woody sign off on it too. And using a first round pick on it, it would surprise me. It would surprise me. I wouldn't necessarily hate it. I don't know if I'd love it. Penix would be my guy. I don't love the injury history. I get all that. But as far as quarterbacks go, I think he's the most pro-ready right now. He seems like he knows how to diagnose stuff pre-snap. I'm a big fan of Penix, just not at the top of the draft. But if you need your quarterback, you need your quarterback. Revenge says, go get Ayuk. You want me to bust a load? That's how you make me bust a load. Not happening. Now that we got this, I can't see any way we trade for Ayuk. Old Titan says, given the Jets' history drafting, I would do wide receiver in the first, O-line in the second, because the Jets seem to do better at drafting wide receiver in the first and O-lineman in the second. I feel like our second round picks have been so bad for so long, it's hard. But we got Tittman in the second round, so that's feeling pretty good. 1-1. Vlad Dukas. not good. I think he was a second round pick. Was he second or third round? Either way. Wide receiver in the first, you get an elite weapon. And I kind of like Bowers because it does hit those different levels of the offense. And in my flow chart, I don't have to change anything if it's Bowers. I want trade down. Trade down would be my preferred option. If you could trade down and get Bowers, home run. Home run. Let's do it. Just a guy says, I think Travis is a top 5 quarterback in this class. We can get him in the 4th, and we should. I'm down with that. I think you can IR him too, and you can keep your 2 quarterbacks on the roster. That's my favorite part about Jordan Travis. TN Nick says, I would prefer to trade back, at least get a second rounder, or go up and get Harrison or Neighbors. Getting one of those. Now at this point, I guess if you have, I would love Marvin Harrison Jr. That would be so sick. That would be absolutely wild. I just don't know how you do it with you probably cut Lazard at that point because you're just wasting reps. Bowers would displace Yeboah. I don't know. I feel like Bowers makes a lot of sense because he's just going to fall to us at 10. I think he's just definitely going to be there. Michael says, as a Notre Dame fan, I would love to draft Sam Hartman in the later rounds. I don't know why he gets hated on. He didn't do great at the Senior Bowl. Is that right? I think he had a rough offseason. Jesse says, I love these win now moves, but we need to trade down and take a tackle in the first for the future/present. Someone's going to get hurt. That's why I like Fuatanu. But his offensive line coach from college is now the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks, and they have pick 16. So I think that's as far down as he's fallen. A-Rod says, Ryan, isn't it funny? Despite everything Robert Saleh does to prevent injuries every year, we lose everyone every year. It sucks. It's miserable. I just want to stay healthy. The Bills didn't have an injury to their offensive line until the playoffs. Imagine that. Michael says, trade down with Las Vegas. Give them 13 and give them 72 to get 44. Then draft Brian Thomas at 13. Best tackle available at 44. Reports are Raiders want J.J. McCarthy. So I think if you want J.J., I think you're going to have to go up to 4 because I think the Giants are in play at 6. And the Raiders won't be able to trade with the Chargers at 5 because they're division rivals. So I think it's going to have to be 4. I mean, the other option is maybe one of those teams trades with the Titans if the Giants don't go offensive line and the Chargers and the Cardinals don't want to trade out. But I feel like the Vikings having multiple firsts, they're going to be able to get up. And I feel like the Chargers are the perfect spot to trade up with them. But if the Raiders want to come up and they can get up to 4, it doesn't matter what the Vikings do to get up to 5. I think the Vikings are going to have to get up to 4. Man, I don't know how we're going to trade down for I don't think a quarterback's going to be on the clock for us for them to come up for a quarterback. I hope there is. I just don't see if it's going to be. I don't think that's going to be true. Old Titan says, I prefer the Jets take a quarterback with a second round if they're going to take a quarterback. It depends who's there and where your pick is. After Penix and Nix, I'm probably like lukewarm on the rest of the class, and I'd wait till the 4th round. Eric says, Brees was a second-round pick. Yeah, but I was talking about offensive linemen. Or I thought we were talking about offensive linemen. Could be wrong. Nightbot, please stop pressuring me to buy Crescent Canna. This is middle school all over again. If you guys don't know, I do have a sponsorship with Crescent Canna, and it is friggin' awesome. It is really dope. If you guys haven't done this, or if you're like interested in it at all, you don't smell like pot. You don't have to worry about the stigma of going into a dispensary or a head shop, and you get gummies or seltzers. Like I've swapped out from drinking alcohol to drink THC seltzers, and it's amazing. I don't feel like garbage after, the next morning. And then the THC syrup, I've been dropping in my coffee. So you make anything you want a little bit tastier. Jets Talk 24/7. No, Jets Talk. Link in the description down below. 25% off. Be there or be square. Joseph says, Jets reporter Eric has been super happy saying quarterback in the 3rd round. We have no choice. They will trade down and a 2nd-round pick. I want a 2nd-round pick. I want that to happen. I think the Jets definitely are trying to angle for that too. I think they want that 2nd-round pick, and it's just a matter of what you do with it. Duncan says trade down or best offensive lineman, get into the teens, pick up a 2nd. Lots of discussions that we can have. I'm excited to see what happens over on Talking Jets tonight, because there is a lot we can get into. Boys and girls, I'm going to round out this show. I am just... Oh, man. Sorry. Round out this show. Get your final thoughts. Big Green says, grow your own weed. You could certainly do that. I understand that. It's a lot cheaper to do that. Then you just got to grow it. All right, let's see. Boys and girls. Sean says, we're not getting a 2nd-round pick without kicking in a 3rd or 4th check the value charge. Geez, you'd have to fall back pretty far, or you'd have to pit 2 division rivals against one another, and they'd have to want that quarterback that's there bad enough. That's what would have to happen. Can we get some grass at MetLife, please? We're going to get it for the World Cup, and they're going to tear it out right before football season. It's going to happen. Quote me on it. Eric says, how far down do we have to trade down to get a 2nd-round pick? I still want a starter in the 1st round. You probably have to fall back to, I think pick 18. I think the Bengals pick at 18 is where the value flips over to, a 2nd-round pick. But that doesn't mean you can't get a team that wants to come up for a player that they really want. They're going to overpay a little bit. But the 18 pick is where you'd want to be. All right. Boys and girls, I've got dinner to attend to. We're going to be live for the Talking Jets live stream over on the Talking Jets channel. Myself, O'Leary, and Green Bean all discussing this breaking news. Jets get Mike Williams. 1 year, $15 million. I'm pumped up on it. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And as always, go Jets.
One, two, three.